So whenever you think of a subtitle like Part 2, Chapter 2...
Resurgence.
Well, why are we going to call this Chapter 2? And they said, well, it's based on a book
where there's
books
40
are segmented
chapters.
by chapters. So because this is a movie adaptation of a book, we're going to call it chapters because it's a movie.
Is the book not called Chapter 2?
No, it's
one book. So we just got out of watching It Resurgence.
It literally does resurge.
You don't have to watch our It Chapter 1
It's a bad video, yeah.
It's not a
It
great
is our worst looking video.
It is a pretty bad video.
We shot it on, like a phone?
It was back in the dark ages when we used the
it was an iPod
types,
Touch.
the Canon Handycam.
Right?
Yeah.
And the fisheye camera.
Yeah, fisheye camera. Oh god. Oh, the dark ages. Now our videos look great.
To the losers.
We made an oath.
Swear? If it isn't dead, if it ever comes back, we'll come back to it.
We didn't stop it.
Pennywise.
I liked It Chapter 1 well enough. I didn't love it. It was fine. There were some really fun parts about it. It was just a fun little horror movie. And so going into this one, I was kind of like, I hope it's fun. Like, I wanted to just have a good time at the theater. I was not expecting to be scared. I wasn't expecting it to really be a horror movie. I was kind of hoping it would just be a fun little comedy. But I kind of thought it was going to suck because it's 2 hours.
2.5 hours.
You mean 3 hours?
Yeah, it's 2 hours and 50 minutes, sorry. And while I like the characters, I was kind of like done with it after it. I was like, oh yeah, it's a 2,000-page book. I'm going to make the wild guess because the only parts of the book that I know is when they're a child, that's the only good parts of the book.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it since I saw it in theater, so I rewatched it last night because we were going to watch it today.
Yeah.
It's still fun,
Yep.
you know, and I like I think what makes it fun is I like the characters, but rewatching it, I was like, there's so many characters in this, they should cut out half of them.
Yes.
And I was sitting there thinking that the whole time, I was like, this is what they do. The Jewish kid and the fat kid and the black kid,
they all kill themselves.
They can all just be one person. How about that? How about they're just all one person? It's Jewish, fat, black kid. I don't care. Because I was sitting there and I was like, oh, I know why this next movie's gonna be 3 hours, because there's freaking 20 characters.
Yes. And that first movie's bogged down by the fact that it's like we have to show all the characters and how they interact with it.
And how do they meet after they already?
Yeah, not even just that, but like the first movie just ignores some of the characters. Like there's so many characters in it.
The black kid does like maybe 3 things. He gets that.
Well, he doesn't show
bolt gun.
Yes.
And then that's the only thing he does the whole movie.
Which I thought was super weird going into this one. Where like they're this whole like close group or whatever. But I was like, that the black kid and the fat kid seemed completely outside of them. Like they barely knew them. You know what I mean?
They became part of the losers club at the end.
Yeah.
Which this movie,
which is something.
We'll get in that.
Yeah, like
something. Yeah. But
so what were your thoughts going into the second?
And then and then I watched it, and then my thoughts going into the second one based on rewatching the first one, I was like, what the heck are they going to do with the second one? Like I barely know anything. All I know is the Jewish kid kills himself. That's all
everyone knows.
And I was like, that's all I know, and like I never hear anything about the second one. So what are they gonna do? Is it like, where do they even go from here? Because I was watching the first one and I was like, this doesn't even feel like
except for the 10-minute ending where they say it will come back and we have to come back to Derry when it comes back because we've made this blood pact that it will come back and we have to stop.
They say it might.
Climax. Also, they say it might come back. They don't say it will come back. They say it might come back. So if it does, we need. It could just be an ending like that. You know, it doesn't feel like an open-ended, incomplete story.
If that was the end of it, I'd be like, oh yeah. And then they went off to have lots of wacky adventures that summer. They all gangbanged the redheads.
That is what happened in the book.
It kept cutting back to them, and like in the past, I was like, they're gonna throw in the gangbangs.
We forgot to do it last time, and
we didn't forget. We were biding our time. We were waiting for you to love us first.
Those cowards, after $1 billion, were still cowards.
They should have brought it back.
They should have brought it back.
So my thoughts going in. So I liked the first one the most out of all of us, I think. Like, because I saw it twice in theaters. I loved it the first time. The second time,
like the stuff that you like is very Brian.
Yeah, the checks, which I'll get into when we talk about this one, because no one watched our first video because it's bad. But the things that are good in it, like, especially hit home for me. Like, they're extra effective for what I like in a movie.
For all B.
For the second one, I was kind of like, the best part about this movie is the relationship these actors have with each other. Like, their chemistry works great. And I'm like, and now you have to try to achieve that chemistry with adult actors, and then you have, you know, A-list actors. You have Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, who's like skyrocketed in popularity. And it's like, okay...
Bill Hader, same
thing. Bill Hader, same thing. He's gotten more and more popular. And it's like, how are you going to recreate... And even in the first one, there were characters that didn't have a lot of chemistry. The fat kid wasn't great.
Yes.
The redheaded chick, I didn't think was a great actress. She actually got better in this one, in my opinion. Like the very limited stuff she had.
All the actors in this... All the kid actors have been better.
Yeah, they got better. Which is weird, because didn't they shoot it back to back?
No. So, that's actually a funny thing. Do you guys know what they did? Because I going into it, knew how they did the flashback stuff. It's super weird, and it's like you can see it if you actually are paying attention to it. So first they de-aged the kids back to 2 years ago or whatever. So they de-aged them so they don't look like they're hitting puberty, and they took their audio and they sped it up and altered it and stuff so that it wasn't
like in South Park, like to make them sound more kid-like.
So so when you're watching it, they all are talking slightly faster and their mouths are moving kind of weird.
That's good because the kid in Stranger Things by season 2 talked his voice.
It's because they changed their voice. Like they took their voices in.
Interesting, and it's mostly going to be these actors. I don't know if the chemistry is going to be the same. But these guys clearly know how to make a movie, and so hopefully it's good, because I really, really like it.
And then you realize that the best part of the entire franchise is just the relationship between Pennywise and the kids, and when they bully each other, it's great. Like, every scene where Pennywise was like, I'm just gonna bully these kids, and then the kids are like, I'm gonna try to bully Pennywise, and Pennywise was like, no, you're a fat loser. You're fat, and no one will ever love you.
You're a fat cuck loser.
You'll always be a cuck. I'm gonna cover you in dirt.
That was what was super weird. Every single time they had the cuck fat kid, whenever he saw things that he was afraid of, it was just James McAvoy banging Jessica Chastain. It was really interesting. It wasn't a scary scene, but
James McAvoy would look at the cuck fat kid and point at him as an American Psycho, like an American Psycho.
I liked it. I enjoyed my time in the theater. I didn't love it. Honestly, it sits in a very similar place with the first one, a little bit below it, just because I don't think it's as solid as a movie.
I think it's not as solid because it's not as paced as well.
Like, no. It's so with that 2 hour and 50-minute runtime, it should not be that long. It is too fucking long.
I think where it's long is the ending, because so when they get to the house and they're gonna go to the climax, without spoiling anything.
My girlfriend was like, I really have to pee, and then I was like, well, they're entering like the boogie zone or whatever, like it's gotta be almost over. And then I looked at the time and it was like, oh, we still have 40 fucking minutes left?
Yeah, because I'm
sorry, did you just refer to it as the boogie zone? We're gonna ignore it. We're just gonna let that fly by. All the garbage you guys call me out for, the stupid shit that comes out of my mouth. We're gonna let Boogie Zone, like, he's just gonna call out a table and walk out.
Yeah, dude. I don't know why you're getting all wrapped up about Boogie Zone.
But yeah, just a nip in the butt, so we don't stick good parp on it like in our parts. Like, all three of us have the complaint that it's too long.
Yeah,
the movie is too long.
But it's not too long for the first 2 acts. Like the first 2 acts.
No, it speeds for a long time and it slows.
Because you're watching it. I thought it was almost over at the movie zone.
Yes.
I looked at my phone and I was like, "There's 50 minutes left? How is there 50 minutes left?" And then the ending is long.
So what else did you think about it?
But yeah, like, so what Brian was saying with the characters and like having to add this dynamic to these adult actors that, you know, are all A-list, or a lot of are A-listers.
It's about 50-50.
Yeah, they did a really, really good job where it matters. They did it well. The casting in especially like the dude that plays Eddie is fucking great. Bill Hader is fucking amazing. Jessica Chastain, man. She's always great.
Yeah.
The fat kid, I would still say, is a little weak.
He's better than his fat child self.
Yeah. The dude that plays.
It's not like they're the same actor.
The dude that played. Well, and I would also like they're like my 2 least favorite parts or characters would probably be the fat kid and Mikki, and I think the biggest reason is because I think their characters are just weak. Like, what does the fat kid have going?
Well, here's the problem.
He's fat.
He's a cuck,
and he's a cuck.
Here's the thing. When I was saying earlier,
we don't like the fat kid because we don't have a drop of cuck blood in our veins.
Like, we don't relate with.
How can I relate with such a feeble fuck?
I would never like a cuck.
Like every single scene where the cuck's in it, I'm just rooting for Pennywise to eat it.
Yeah, it's just like, eat that cuck, put him out of his misery. Put me out of my misery so I don't have to watch this stupid cuck.
He's worse than just a regular cuck. He's a cuck that doesn't like you.
I like.
Yeah, he doesn't get off on it.
So I liked James McAvoy's arc a lot, where he's like now he's like trying to stop it from happening to kids again. I wish that instead, because like they one thing I that did kind of annoy me is that they were like, oh, he thinks Georgie's alive again. Like he falls for the same ploy where it's like, oh, Georgie's in the well, and it's like, what? Why? Like you literally had the arc at the end of the last movie where you killed him because you're like Georgie's
This is
dead.
true.
Well, they also did that with the final confrontation. They had the same realization they had at the end of the first one. They
Yeah,
were
and then
like,
he
wait,
kills
that
him.
worked perfectly the last time. Why didn't we just...
I liked it too.
Yeah,
I think
again.
like, it is a little. It's not as good as the first one, but it's still like a fun ride. And I think I know why these movies work because they're not great. It's not. Great
Oh yeah, because
horror.
we should specify that these are one of the most profitable horror movies to come out in a long time.
They're barely.
That's what I was gonna say. They're not really horror movies. What it is it's an action movie.
Yes. Oh, I have a whole bit about it being an action.
Because that's what I was thinking when I was watching the first one last night. I was like, this is more structured like an action movie. And then when we were watching this one, you and me were talking about how it's an Avengers movie.
Yeah, no,
they're all teaming up again.
the first act of the movie is exactly the same as an Avengers movie, and then when
It's pretty much just Endgame.
and then when they introduce the plot, like he's like, okay, we have to obtain these items, a set amount of these items, in which to collect them together. And once they're together,
And they
we have a super powerful
they have a
extra
little-
item. And a little container to hold these specific amounts of items.
Each of them trying to get their little token.
Yeah,
like,
this
had
is
a little
like
action set piece.
A
associated
horror
with
version
it.
of the event.
Yeah, every single horror scene is just an action set.
Yes.
And I was thinking that in the first movie when they go to the house the first time and they're just all running around like just things are constantly being thrown at them. I was like, this isn't really a horror scene because you're just forgetting everything that's happening because they're all just flying around doing crap. Just
Especially
like
with how they treat the horror in it.
Yeah.
Every scene is the same.
Yes.
Where they slowly walk toward, which the first one suffered from that, but they also changed it up a couple times. Like the first scene where he meets Georgie is the best horror scene, and it's because it's just this
And then they do
character
it again in this
that
one.
you know it wants to kill this kid. And you see him very slowly tricking this kid into getting closer and closer, and it's a really interesting
They do the
dynamic.
same thing in this one,
I-
and it's pretty good too.
I was a little disappointed with that. I kind of wish they had done something a little bit different with that scene with the little girl because it like I liked the persuasion part of it, like the
persuasion
like,
part's
Because
yes.
he changed it up there, but it is the same scene.
It's the same scene essentially,
But also, like, in the first one, they also had that scene where they're watching that thing in the garage, and then Pennywise just, like, you see him slowly, like,
Yeah, that's
flickering.
pretty cool.
That was a different thing. It wasn't just person chasing them down a hallway. They did two different things.
That's why they work is because they're just these fun action
Well,
movies that
that is kind of
look like a horror movie.
That is the trend of popular horror. Like I think this is like something that has been building up. Like The Conjuring also has an action movie.
No,
finale.
that was one thing that I said is by the end of The Conjuring, they become the ghost police.
Yes.
A police officer literally shoots open a door with a shotgun, kicks it open, and he says, "Where are you, ghost?" and starts shooting at him.
I think
And it works.
I think that it is just like they saw that and they were like, well, let's just go to the finish line instead of finish.
I think now it's like this is because it's awkward, kind of awkward in the Conjuring movies where this is like they figured out how the
Yes.
action horror movie works. You know,
Yeah,
even like there's action, there's horror comedy, there's straight horror, there's like horror thriller, there's like psychological horror. Now there's horror action.
Yeah,
Like,
they
this is horror
they
action.
even in The Conjuring too. They put a lot of like action mustard on it. Like
Yes.
literally at the end. The ending of the movie is her shouting at the monster, "Your name is the King of Snakes!
Well, and
Fuck off, ghost!"
So the Conjuring movies both suffer from this problem where that is the solution at the end is you just yell at the ghoul really loud and then it dies.
And then it dies, yeah.
Whereas at least in the It movies there is like a process, like there's a character
They
thing
have
that
to
they have to
overcome something.
Well, they have to have a character. Defeating
have
it is their character arc.
Yes, it is the completion.
Whereas
of
the
their
ending of
arc.
The Conjuring, none of the characters have
They
an arc.
just
They
yell
just
at
yell
them.
at it. Oh,
Yeah.
I remember your name because I'm a psychic and I wrote it in a book, and so I'm just gonna.
Your name is Bagul!
It was phallic in the second one. Okay.
And the Bagul's like
Lord of Snakes. So what did I think of it, Chad?
What did you think of it, Chapter Poop?
I thought it was good for the most part. For me, for Jessica Chastain, I think one of the issues with it, like, she's a great actress, but her character kind of gets removed. Like, especially when they do all the flashback
she
stuff.
feels
Like,
like
she's
a completely different person.
She's like super friendly. She jokes around a lot. None of that is in her adult version. She's literally just Jessica Chastain being scared for 2.5 hours.
So something they bring up in the movie is that like these kids basically mirror their child life and their adult life. Like
especially with her marrying like an
the
abusive
ones
guy.
that are married are like the two of the three that are married.
Which he considers his only good quality is his humor. So he just and so that was interesting because like they have changed. Like almost all of them, they have changed, but you can still see who they were as a kid. With Jessica Chastain, one of my biggest complaints is she was the weakest character because they removed her character.
Well, and
I think what they were trying to do is she's just been battered so much that now
but now like she was battered when she was a kid too.
They're doing like the Jenny thing where she's like her life is just so horrible.
And I get that. It just makes her character less interesting to
she's
watch.
more boring.
Which it's like, I'm not sitting here saying like, if you're an abused victim and it makes you boring, you're boring.
It is kind of like they kind of just make her. I don't want to use this word, but they kind of just make her the slut that everyone calls her, because she's just like, who am I going to love in this movie? Well,
no, she literally just becomes a love interest, which is my biggest.
I think James McAvoy. I think you're a little hotter, but. You know, that fat kid when he was fat Roman.
He wrote me that cuck poem.
You know, like that fat kid, like, I didn't realize how jacked he was until there was, like, letters being carved into him.
Until that horrendous clown was slicing his skin.
So I
was like, look at those abs.
No, but yeah, that was my biggest complaint about, specifically character-wise, is they just made her the most boring piece of shit on the planet. And then, I think the humor was less strong in this one. Like, it's still a funny movie, but the first movie is hilarious.
I was a little surprised by it because with Bill Hader being it and him being a comedian, I thought they were going to do a little bit more with that.
But they do the same thing that made me love the first one, is they all react in a very human way to all the horror stuff.
Yeah, everything's pretty
like,
natural.
Where it's all, like, you watch, again, I talked about it in the first video, but none of you watched it. In all these garbage horror movies, no one acts like a person. They all just stand there and like, a pool! But in the first one, they open up a door and there's a bunch of dolls, and Richie just goes, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you serious?"
There's a direct thing reference in the movie when the guy turns into a head.
I was half expecting him to just say, "Have you guys ever seen the Thing?" and then just run away.
Wait, and then Bill Hader says, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Which is what he says in the movie when that thing happens.
But yeah,
he's like, "You gotta be fucking kidding."
And that stuff is all just as good. How they react like in a very human way. The movie is too long.
Way too long.
Especially the part where I brought this up to you, where they got to the part where he basically says, "Oh, we forgot that this is a horror movie, so we're all going to separate, and then this is just going to be the chunk of the movie, which is a horror movie. So we forgot to make it scary in the first hour and a half."
It opens horrific. It opens with...
That's true.
Dude, the bullies in Derry are the most violent people on the planet.
It did teach me that Maine is a shithole and no one should live there.
Like, the bully in the first movie is a psychopath murderer.
Because, like,
dude, we haven't even talked about the greatest part of the whole movie.
We'll get to that in a second, dude. But, like, in the books it made sense because it was, like, 60s to the 80s. So it's like, oh, homophobia is super rampant, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. This is modern day.
This is modern day. And
beating this gay person
and throwing him over. And they throw him off a bridge. And then Pennywise eats him.
Which they changed that because Pennywise only ate kids before, and now he can just eat kids.
That first act is super dark. Like, that, it's like ridiculously dark.
Like, a main character kills himself, a gay bash happens, and they throw him in the water, and Pennywise eats him.
Yeah, it's super dark. And then you see Jessica Chastain just get beat the crap out of her husband.
Dude, that sound effect when she gets punched is fucking awesome.
Which is weird that they kept the detail of the bruising on her wrist, but not on her face where he punched her in the head.
And knocked her onto the bed. Like, she went, like, flying.
It's because Jessica Chastain didn't want makeup all over her face that made her look at it.
That was another thing with Pennywise, for me, is, like, Pennywise, despite seemingly having more screen time in this one, his presence was stronger in the first one. Like, in the first one, he fucking eats up the scenery every scene he's in. Like, this is fucking Pennywise movie. And in this one, he just...
so often.
But in this one, like, even his dialogue, like, he's not clever... Or he's not. He's basically. But he's mostly just repeating the same shit he said in the first one. So I felt like it made him less interesting.
One thing I kind of wish that they had done with him, or that like I thought they were gonna do something like this going into it, is that they would make him almost like a wild animal, and he's been hurt, and he lost last time. He didn't get the energy he needed, so he's at like a lower place than he started at last time. So he's a little bit more desperate. But yeah, and then they don't do that. Like if anything, he's stronger, but like. You know, I wanted them to do something a little bit more interesting there.
One detail I liked which is just kind of a throwaway detail, but like these movies are very violent. Like there's in the first movie a little child gets his arm bitten off by a monster.
Little girl gets eaten.
Yeah, her face gets eaten.
That's one of the best parts of that movie.
One thing
that is amazing.
What that I thought was interesting and a good move was it's like, all right, everyone knows the Jewish kid's gonna kill himself. It's gonna be gross. They're gonna show him killing himself, but they did it really like classy.
Yeah.
Like you see that he killed himself, but they don't like glorify it or like.
Yeah, I was expecting them to show it.
And the fact that they made it took a I thought that was a really good move. I thought that was really smart. That's the thing about these movies is you can tell the guys making it, everyone in production, not just the director,
they're talented.
very, very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all thinking about it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the zombie best friends.
Yeah, so the best
Dude, I
friend.
want to spin off
The
with
best
mental
one-
patient and zombie best
The
friend.
best part, they also barely have an effect on the plot. I wish they had way more because that was my biggest
It
problem
is
with
the best and worst part of the
Also,
movie.
it proves that not only did the zombie break into this mental patient hospital with a knife, but he can also physically drive.
So
The zombie can actually take this person from
But just
place
like-
to place.
So in the movie, the bully from the first movie
Who dies.
is in an insane
For a
asylum.
whole
well, the two bullies are in it. The one who dies and the one who lived.
And he's in an insane asylum, and he while he's there, he sees a little balloon, and he runs to his room, and then a zombie attacks him. And you're like, oh god, a zombie is attacking
Then he
him.
recognizes
and then he
the zombie.
recognizes
It's his
that the
best
zombie
friend.
is his old best friend that died in the first movie.
And so he breaks out in this really horrific scene where he kills a mental patient. He breaks out, and then it turns into a best friend buddy movie in the 80s.
He
where
hops
he's
into a sweet car.
a muscle car with his zombie best friend just sitting like this. He's like,
Drops
let's
his
get out of there,
down.
bro. Let's go pound
And
those
they speed
nerds.
off. And then
And I wanted the movie to be about them.
well,
then.
see, that's the thing. Like that scene happens, and I was like, "What is gonna happen with these guys? What?"
That's the most bizarre, ridiculous
It was
premise.
so weird. And every time that guy showed up, I was like, "This is great. I love this so much." This guy's just running around trying to stab his like old,
The zombie best friend
his
behind
old
the wheel.
nerdy kids that he used to beat up when he was a kid. It's super weird, but I just wish it went somewhere.
Yes.
You know, like it was like possibly my favorite part of the movie. It was so intriguing to me.
Well, it was
But
it was
all
the
he does
scene.
is stab the guy in the face, and that's it.
It's because it's like for a brief moment it becomes dead alive, and then
Yes.
it's just like
I kick ass for the Lord. That is a dead alive like.
Yes,
Well, 'cause
that is
it's
a dead alive
it's
setup.
just such a in my head. I'm like, it's so funny that these characters they're dealing with Pennywise, this like alien
And then
creature,
there's this
evil
psychopath
But then there's
with
just
a
this
zombie
separate
running
thing
around.
completely that there's just their old bully has shown up again to try and stab them all to death.
See, dude, here's what happened. I think they had someone that was like us writing it, and they were like, "Well, how funny would it be if they were best friends?" And like it was a zombie. But then they were like,
They
"Yeah,
backed
that's a
out.
little funny," but like
We'll give
we're
you
not.
a couple scenes with the zombie best friend driving the muscle car.
And,
Where did he
and
get
then
a
they were
muscle
like,
car?
"No, that's what the whole movie should be about." And then
I think this is a good sign that whatever this writer or the director, like this team is, they should just not do a source material thing and just write a horror comedy because
Yes.
that's clearly what they want to do.
Yeah,
honestly,
they clearly want to make a horror comedy
I
where
would
they can
be
do whatever the
all
fuck they
the
want.
fuck about that.
Oh,
If
yeah,
these
that'd
guys
be
wanted to
great.
make a horror comedy that was just like, this is our own thing, like we did it.
They
now we're
already
doing this.
are almost there with this movie.
Basically, so I think that would be awesome.
I can definitely understand if you didn't like the first one, if you didn't sit down, you didn't like it,
You shouldn't watch
then
this one.
I would forget it. Like you're not gonna like this one anymore. If you liked it, you'll like this one. I had a bunch of fun watching it. I don't think I'm gonna see it again in theaters, but I'll probably eventually see it again.
How many space eggs do you give it?
I give it a probably 10 out of 12.
Yeah, same thing. Like it's a fun ride. If you like the first one, watch this one. If you like those characters, watch this one. There are too many characters still. That's a complaint that is just never going to be resolved for me. Where I just sat there and I was like, okay, Mike.
Well, there aren't too many characters by the ending.
Yeah, I was like, Mike
There's the adequate number.
and the fat kid should just be one character. They basically want the same thing in the first one, you know?
I think it's almost a missed opportunity. Like if they had killed more characters in the beginning, where it's
Yeah.
like Pennywise just what if Pennywise just murdered one of them in the beginning? Like they're setting up all the stakes, like you have to get your artifact or whatever, and then fucking one of them just dies. Like the fat kid dies or something. It's like that. Now there's stakes again because it's like we're trying to fix.
Well, they
this.
try
There
to set
wouldn't
the
be
stakes by saying he killed himself because of Pennywise's
Right.
influence. Like we're all at a
Also,
ticking
the
clock.
stakes wouldn't be set if he killed the cuck, because who cares if he dies?
That's
Like,
true.
Also, that scene in the old lady's house was pretty sweet.
That was a good scene.
Oh, yeah, that was sweet.
Again, adding to the horror comedy thing that they definitely
Also,
want to make,
that-
where
that-
she's just giggling and running naked in the
I
background.
can't-
Or when she's like, "No one's ever really dead," and it holds on her face for 10 seconds. And it's like, what are you doing? So how many space eggs do you give it? It's out of 12.
Oh, I was just gonna say one last thing. Like, so we all like it. I wouldn't say we think of it like it's high art. This is a great movie.
No,
kind of thing. It's just a fun.
Yeah, I like it in the same way I like
Same thing with the
Avengers.
first one.
Yeah.
The same thing with the first one. Where
it's not like we're
amazing.
sitting here like this is an amazing movie. It's just this is just a fun ride. Like it's just a good time to movie.
With that being specified, out of 12, how many space eggs?
I would give it a chapter 2 out of 12.
Okay.
Wow.
Chapter 2.
I don't know how that graphic's gonna turn
Yeah,
out.
that.
Well, the first one I gave it chapter 1.
If you're trying to watch like a scary movie, which no one who watches horror movies anymore wants anymore, people want that type of movie. Like, no, people who say they love horror movies, most of them, and I'm not saying you're casuals or anything like that, because this is what modern
No
horror
one
is.
saw Suspiria except me and Sam Slade.
Yeah, is like if you want like a
Most horrific
slow,
movies ever.
like it's not the Neon Demon, which is an actually terrifying movie that will shake you to your core, or anything like that. It's like we said, it's this new genre which has existed for like almost 10 years now, like this modern horror thing. It's just like that, and it's just as good, if not better. It's a really high quality movie. Again, it's not high art, but the production value is
It's popcorn horror.
That's the thing. Is like the popcorn horror thing. There's a lot of crap popcorn horror. This is good.
like
Yes.
there are really good movies because they're artistic. Like There Will Be Blood, it's an artistic movie and you get a lot out of it. And then there are movies that are amazing because they're entertaining.
Yeah.
Like Alita is not high art. It is my favorite movie of the year, and it's just an entertaining movie. End the story. I'm committing to it.
of the year, dude.
Of the year.
The
What
whole
would be it?
gosh, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That garbage.
That yeah.
That Quentin Tarantino,
gave it a
sexist, racist, violent
You
garbage.
gave it a 12 out of 12 space eggs. What are you going to give it chapter 2?
How much is it out of?
It's
out of 12.
I'm gonna give it a 12, obviously. Do we have an ending bit that we have prepared?
Oh no, we never do that. We never generally think of it.
That's true. They usually come naturally.
Well,
Actually,
this
you know
movie-
what? This movie sucks because that cuck
Doesn't
gets with
die.
One,
Yeah,
he
it's
doesn't die,
all
and
fake.
2, he becomes not a cuck at the end.
Yeah, it's
Which
all
never
fake.
happened.
Which is
Never
true.
happened.
That's a fake character. Like I can't believe.
Like that is too unbelievable to watch.
Once
like,
it finishes,
I was on board with the clown from space or whatever, and I was on board for all the
You know, even if they added
spider
that
crap.
turtle thing, that god turtle, I would be on board with that as
Yeah,
well.
but
Yeah.
the cuck
I would
ending up
believe
with a girl,
all of that. Before
Ending
I
up with a
believe
girl that
that's
wants to have sex
cuck
with him?
loser.
Finish the statement. Once a cock, once a and that's the ending. Once a cock.
I'm so glad we don't have mics in front of us, dude. I feel like we're so free. Like,
We're so free.
Yeah, the audio is gonna sound terrible though.
No, dude.
That thing has brought us through so many hard times, dude. You don't even know.
This
They were hard times because we were using it.
I'm gonna. This is not a bad setup.
No.
The
This
Yeti
used to
being
be an
above us-
ideal setup.
And the table's off.
When did you become a black
Listen.
table purist?
Listen.
You
It is
hated the black table.
It's the wrong
You
table.
loved it. I loved it.
You hated the
No,
black
the
loved
black
it.
table is better. They're better videos for it.
We had the most amount of subscribers when we had that.
That's not true. We have the most amount of subscribers right now.
Imagine what we would have if we had the black table.
That's true. We lost so many subscribers because we lost that table.
You edit this video so you can put an RIP.
I'm editing this video and there's the black table's not getting any mention. I'm cutting out every mention of the black table.
Yeah, dude,
and the black table's getting forgotten.
I don't want to edit this video because we're only using one camera. You know, and also with